Just like Mario and Peach and Luigi and Daisy, Yoshi and Birdo are often paired up when appearing in games together. Whereas the number of titles where this actually happens pales in comparison to those other pairs, simply due to Birdo not being a definitive A-lister in the Mario cast, there is some additional depth to what Yoshi and Birdo have that makes them an incredibly interesting pair to talk about. After all, there is both a personal aspect to it. Are the individual Yoshi and Birdo we know actually a couple, as well as the relationship between the species of Yoshi and Birdo, who do appear to be similar in some ways, yet Nintendo seems hesitant to fully go in on that biology angle. So that leaves it up to me to pick up the slack, but let's start with the individuals, since we know them a whole lot better. It's easy to forget nowadays that Birdo actually precedes Yoshi as a Mario character, appearing in Super Mario Bros. 2 prior to Yoshi being created in Super Mario World. However, due to the fact SMB2 didn't release in Japan, Birdo was initially not considered to truly be part of the Mario series, not to mention that she also was merely a boss in SMB2, rather than the integral part of the gameplay like Yoshi was. This gradually changed over time, as SMB2 was released in Japan as Super Mario USA, and Birdo started to make appearances in other Mario titles, like Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars, which is the first game where Birdo and Yoshi both appear. Or rather, Birdo and Yoshi's both appear, as there is no reason to suggest the titular, recurring character Yoshi is actually in this title as well. In which case, the first game to have them both would be Mario Tennis, and this is also where their relationship starts to blossom. Rather, it appears to have already started beforehand, because not only are they paired up, they also share a court and are shown to be decently affectionate as well. And technically, it is true that Birdo and Yoshi had been established to be, let's call it involved, before Mario Tennis was even a thing. The Super Mario Kun manga series, which is basically as official as you can get without being an official Nintendo product and has been running from 1991 to this very day, has adapted many Mario games into a manga format, starting with Super Mario World. As such, Yoshi has always been part of the main crew here. So when the Super Mario World arc entered its 6th volume and Birdo was introduced, the two met each other for the first time. This was in 1993, 7 years before Mario Tennis made this pairing much more widespread. From the very first moment that Birdo sees Yoshi, she falls for him and becomes absolutely infatuated. At first, Yoshi holds this off and doesn't reciprocate, but eventually the love becomes mutual, to the point that the later introduced Super Mario Bros. 2 arc has Birdo dying in Subcon to protect her dear Yoshi. So the manga leaves no doubt about it, Yoshi and Birdo are a couple. The games are far from that clear on this standpoint though, and the fact that Birdo is far from an ever-present member of the cast makes it even harder to find clear signs these two are an actual item. Sure, they have chemistry in Mario Baseball, but it doesn't mean they're dating, it could just mean they're friends. Mario Kart Double Dash also pairs them up, as is the game's entire selling point of course. The Japanese website for the game does refer to Birdo as Yoshi's girlfriend, which is really the only time this phrasing has been used. But like I said before, it's also not as if Birdo has such a long list of character profiles like for example Mario and Peach do have. But this Japanese website for Double Dash also mentions another very interesting element about a potential relationship between Yoshi and Birdo. Like I said, it calls Birdo Yoshi's girlfriend, but then continues. But is actually his boyfriend? ? Talking about the history of Birdo's gender is a topic that can easily fill a video in and of itself, but just in case you missed the most important details, ever since her introduction, it has been established Birdo is biologically a man who considers herself a woman, making her one of the first transgender characters in gaming history. Over time, the extent to which Nintendo has focused on this part of her character though has definitely decreased. In the 90s and early 2000s, this was often mentioned as a key part of her character, even being the butt of the joke on occasion in Mario Power Tennis or Mario Superstar Saga, where Birdo is presented as this less than ideal option compared to other women, presumably because she's biologically a man. Nowadays though, there is very little in Birdo's characterization to remind of those days. Her profiles never mention she's actually a man and uses exclusively female pronouns, which wasn't always the case, especially in Japan at first, contrasting with how her Japanese name is the very feminine Catherine. But this does of course also add some additional depth to a potential relationship between Yoshi and Birdo. Because even though they are a man and woman, and thus perhaps a straight relationship, there is also some contention whether someone dating a transgender person is actually in a queer relationship. In real life, I personally don't think labels like that really matter, just date who makes you happy, but in the context of this silly world of Mario, it is interesting to think that there may very well be a canon queer relationship in the Mushroom Kingdom, even if I don't think Nintendo would ever confirm it as such. And that's another interesting element of this pairing. Sure, Mario and Peach and Luigi and Daisy may not always be shown to be dating or together, but it's also not the case that they're, let's call it, unfaithful. But Birdo flirts with every man she sees. It's been a huge part of her character ever since Mario RPG gave her dialogue for the first time. She flirts with Mario very often, she flirts with several characters in Superstar Saga too, and it's even said to be in love with Popple. That's gotta be rough for Yoshi to hear. Not to mention that this is not exclusively old behavior. Whereas her relationship with Yoshi hasn't been mentioned in a good while, Birdo is still her flirty self in a recent game like Paper Mario the Origami King, and she is still on the prowl in Mario Luigi Brothership as well. So from that standpoint, it feels safe to assume that whether Yoshi and Birdo would actually make a queer couple doesn't even really matter. I'm not so sure the current reading of the Mario franchise is that they are actually together anymore. But we're not done yet, because the relationship between Yoshi and Birdo could also possibly extend beyond just these two individuals. After all, both are really just the titular main character of their entire species, and just purely from a biological standpoint, they share quite a lot. Despite coming from entirely separate games and there seemingly not having been the plan to link them together originally, they have a lot in common. Design-wise, for example, Yoshi's and Birdo's have similar builds, with the white pattern on their belly and prominent noses. They too both come in a whole slew of different colors, although differently colored Birdos weren't a thing until Yoshi and their multiple colors had already been established in Yoshi's Island. What does predate Super Mario World, and thus Yoshi's Island though, is Birdo's focus on eggs. Ever since SMB2, she has been shooting them out of her nose-mouth thing. And at the same time, despite Birdo seemingly serving no role in the creation of Yoshi whatsoever, Yoshi was also affiliated with eggs, Yoshi eggs, from the very get-go. It is likely this to some extent fueled the pairing these two received. In Double Dash, they share their special item, the Yoshi or Birdo egg, exactly because they both have this association. Same in Mario Party 7, where they too share the same special orb, the Egg Orb. Ever since the GameCube, Birdo's eggs have been receiving new designs that mirror those of Yoshi eggs, further adding fuel to the fire that their species could perhaps be biologically linked as well. You could further see the fact both species can produce eggs without any form of partner whatsoever as a possible tie to the questions that still remain around the relationship status of Yoshi and Birdo. After all, according to Smash Melee's Yoshi trophy, Yoshis aren't actually male or female. And while the main Yoshi has consistently been referred to as a he, the fact he can produce eggs makes this whole thing more muddied than most real-life species. There has, however, never been a game that ties the species Birdo and the species Yoshi together. Sure, in Mario Baseball, all Yoshi colors like Birdo, but that's about it. I've seen occasional fan theories appear that maybe Yoshi is the male version of the species, while Birdo is the female one, but knowing Birdo's history, that doesn't really work. Or I've seen some folks say that due to their names, Yoshis are actually the ancestors of Birdos. After all, Yoshi is a dinosaur, while Birdo is a sort of bird. Oh. It is true that Birdo's ties to eggs at first appear to be more bird-focused rather than dinosaur-focused like Yoshi, but nowadays no one considers Birdo an actual bird, and like I mentioned earlier, her Japanese name has never alluded to birds whatsoever. Simply put, while we actually know a lot about Yoshis, mostly thanks to the Yoshi's Island games, there is too little information about the Birdo species to really discern what a possible connection could be. Their only appearances are in the kind of side games that really don't talk about this stuff, like Mario Strikers or Mario Kart 8. And what further complicates things is that Birdo hails from Super Mario Bros. 2, which is set in the dream world of Subcon, meaning that we truly have no clue where Birdos are originally from. So until we see an actual community of Birdos in an RPG title, or perhaps in a Yoshi's Island game, we really cannot do anything but speculate based on the physical similarities between Birdos and Yoshis. Fortunately though, if you put it that way, it doesn't feel impossible. It is clear Nintendo still considers Birdo a species and plans to keep her around, so there's no reason why say the next Paper Mario game can't feature a village of Birdos. I can't help but wonder though if the Japanese name is perhaps a problem here. We won't have an issue with an entire village worth of Birdos, but an entire village of Catherines? That's a little weirder. What are your thoughts on Birdo and Yoshi's relationship, both the individuals as well as the species? Share it in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like and subscribe to the channel to stay updated on all my future Mario content coming up. For now, thanks for watching and enjoy the rest of your day.